we have a special guest joining us tonight. We are going to be moving over to League One and the championship. This is someone who's been on our show before. You recently saw him with our League One preview. It turns out almost all the things that he said in those previews have come true. It turns out the Irishman just made no ball. You know him as a Jaeger Cup Meister champion. We know him as a good friend. Eamon Zayed, how are you?
I'm good, guys. Not sure about your words about the predictions. I've already had a couple of people reach out to me about some of those predictions. Listen, some of them are right, some of them are wrong, but that's the beauty of the game. I mean, especially with so many new teams coming into USL League One and USL Championship. It was great to see how those teams started and then how some of the teams have adapted to the league and overcome some of the challenges. And then some of them have gone the other way. But it's been really exciting and interesting. First 10 to 12 games so far in USL League One, and then obviously the championship. There's a lot to talk about as well.
So let's go ahead and go over to League One, where don't look now, but the Double Birds are hot. They are going on a winning streak where they take down the Kickers 2-1. Kirkland gets the Kickers started off early, but Baker and Asante, yes, Solomon Asante, get them winning. And when we talked last time, Eamon, there was preseason, they did not have 11 players on the team. They did not have a left back / right back. They just had a hole there. And they started off bad. And now they've been unbeaten for the last, 3 matches now? Is what we're seeing out of Texoma actually sustainable, and are they a possible threat for one of the last playoff spots?
Listen, you got to say yes. I mean, they've won the last 3. But even before that, I remember watching them the first game where I kind of noticed. So I watched most of the games at the start of the season, and I'll be honest, I was worried. They looked poor. They were off it. They've got experience at the back, but the players that they have at the back, I wouldn't say they're not blessed with pace. They're experienced. They understand the game, but they're not blessed with pace. And I think that was, again, we're talking about a new coach coming into the league. Adrian Forbes comes in and wants to express himself, wants to play a certain way, whether that's pressing, whether that's a high line. And I remember the first couple of games, teams were just playing the ball over the top. It was literally as simple as a ball over the top, and they were through on goal. And I was worried. I had numerous conversations with our coaches about this, thinking that, hey, like they could be on for a really poor season. And then I watched them. I remember the Jägermeister Cup against El Paso at home, but it ended up being it was 0-0. And El Paso, listen, were flying at the time and scoring goals. And I was thinking, that's a really good defensive performance. And they seem to have just carried it on since then. And again, when I talk about coaches coming into the league or first-time head coach, I'm looking at Adrian as a great example of somebody that, didn't just say, it's my way or the highway. He changed things around. He found out what, again, brand new squad, what their strengths were, what worked out. And I think it all started with they are hard to break down. Again, they have big defenders, strong defenders, Jordan Chavez and Kilwine. They have good defenders there that know how to defend a certain way. And they've done that and really looked... They've looked an interesting team. Obviously then you have Asante who can produce things out of nothing. He still has that talent in his, in his locker. So, no, I'm really impressed with how Adrian Forbes has turned it around, has found out what is needed, what's required, how to get the best out of my squad. And we're seeing the fruits of that now because they've been impressive the last few games, I have to say.
Yeah, I think 2 things with Texoma in general. One, the verticality, the way that they build up with the ball, and they're so good about finding Spengler between the lines. I think that's been a real focus point for them that's helping out a lot. Specifically within the Richmond game, kind of the other point, Ozzy Ramos's presence in the midfield and the way that they used him as this stopper whenever the Kickers tried to drive through Barnathan in the pivot. I thought Ramos was down his neck, constantly making him uncomfortable. And that was the spark behind that Teddy Baker goal at the beginning. It constantly furnished them with chances in transition. You pair those bits of excitement that this team can generate with what Eamon was saying, with that defensive structure, the improving chemistry. It may not be the sexiest football all the time, but it's a formula for a team to get points, get wins, and be in the thick of the playoff race. Full credit to Forbes, because we, as a group on this show, went around and said we thought this team might be historically bad, but boy, have they figured it out.
Yeah, I think you definitely, I think, caught it with the Ozzy Ramos shot, Fuego legend, just absolutely tearing it up for Texoma. No, I think he was crucial to them having structure, because I think for the longest time it just looked, to your point, Eamon, it looked like they were kind of lost and it was easy to play through them. That is not the case for Texoma anymore. I think the sort of day that Richmond were in for actually came after Kirkland's goal. Like, it was very indicative when Kirkland had to think way too much about the backflip celebration. It was clear that he wasn't comfortable with it. And as soon as he broke it out, I was like, I don't know if it's kicker's day, despite the opening goal. So no, all in all, I think a really great performance for Texoma, and they have the quality in this team to kind of pick up the scraps when they fall to them. And right now they're feasting on those. And that's enough in League One, is being a little, solid defensively, and then letting the rest work itself out and taking your chances up top. That's all you can ask.
Let's go ahead and kind of move on to a big rivalry match, which was Union Omaha versus Forward Madison. Union Omaha get a win. They finally get that 1-0 win. Forward Madison, they seem to draw everything, but it's mostly because they can't score. The front three for them, which is Luca Dorado, who's in on loan from Birmingham, Garcia, and Derek Gebhardt, they just cannot put the ball in the back of the net, but they seem solid defensively. Are we more excited that Union Omaha were able to get the results going, or are we seriously concerned over the lack of attacking presence for Forward Madison?
For me, let's start off by saying an absolute wonder goal from Cello. Yes. I mean, what a goal. We obviously, I had him last year here, and yeah, he's capable of doing stuff like that. Really intelligent, smart player. So I was delighted for him to see him score, and against his old club as well. I think he ran up and celebrated, and I think he pointed to the Omaha crest, maybe just tongue in cheek. I thought that was funny, but no, look, the game itself, again, 70% to 30% possession for Madison. And Madison, most games, they dominate possession. And that's how they play. Matt likes to dominate possession, hold on to the ball. It's a strange one. I've watched Madison so much this year, and I'm still trying to figure them out, because for me, and, Matt, forgive me for saying it, I just, and it's not, I don't know what's going on there, but for me, Madison were my favorites to definitely be a top 3 team this year. They have the consistency of most of the players that they had last year. They've brought back, and they've built upon that over the last couple of years. And I thought this was the year. This is going to be their breakout year to actually challenge. Madison have been in the league for 2019, and great crowds, record attendances. Great place to coach a game, to be at a game, and they're just missing that piece of silverware. And I don't know if it's going to be this year, to be honest. They've looked really poor. Clearly, look, they've scored 7 goals. I mean, that's the lowest in the league. It's really poor. And you look at it and you wonder why. I mean, Gebhardt, I will say this, Gebhardt is scoring. I mean, I think he's gotten 4 goals this year, but bar him, there's nobody. And you say, all right, well, you're missing Cheney, but they still have Galindrez, they have Devin Boyce, they have other players there, Bartman. They've players there that can score goals, and have proved it in the past. I'm still, honestly, as a coach, I'm just watching them. I'm not actually delving into them, as I would if I was coaching against them. But watching them, I still can't figure it out. There's something missing. They look okay in games, they're okay. I mean, defensively, they look okay. They're I will say this. Another thing, just on the defensive side of it. I mean, for me, Bernd Shipman has been one of the best goalkeepers in the USL League One over the last couple of years. I don't know if he started with an injury, but they've been, obviously, Wallace Lapsley has been in goals for a few. I like Shipman. Now, I know Shipman played against Omaha, and the consistency, I do think you need a consistent goalkeeper there, because I think they've only kept one clean sheet this year, and they haven't conceded many. I think they've only conceded 9 and 9, but they've only kept one clean sheet. And last year, they definitely kept a lot more clean sheets. Definitely, I think, per game than they have so far this year. But look, obviously they can't score goals, and that's the big issue. And I'm not quite sure. They're creating chances. They're creating, I wouldn't say they're creating loads of chances, but they're definitely creating enough that they should be scoring more. But it's just a case of nobody has their scoring boots on at the moment, and it's really, really hurting them, because I think they had one shot in the whole game against Omaha, 70% possession and one shot, one shot on target. And before that, they had scored 2 goals in their previous 2 games before that, and both were penalties. So I'd be trying to correct that first and foremost, because listen, you can't win games if you can't score goals.
I'm 1 second, John. I know you're about to jump in, but I have a quick question actually for Eamon, which is, a few weeks ago we had a quote come from Ian Cameron where he talked about how possessive teams cannot win in League One, and how he said that like teams like how he tries to play, which is very fluid, try to control the game, does not win. Counter-attacking, counter-pressing football wins League One. Are we seeing a little bit of that, or is that even really a thing, and that's just his own personal experience with Tormenta?
Well, I'll say this. If that's your personal experience, or if that's what you feel, then why do you continue to do the same thing? Genuinely, it's listen, I mean, I'll be honest. Look, Ian's a USL League One champion. I mean, he's been there, done that. But again, Tormenta, they want to possess football. I remember we played against Tormenta last year, and he was shouting on 10 passes, get your 10 passes in. And I'm thinking, 10 passes? Like, 10 passes for what? And they were just playing it in their own half. I think we ended up winning the game 3-0, and yeah, they had more possession, but again, like, you got to figure it out. And it's tough on Madison, because the last couple of years, Madison have been really good, and they haven't changed. They've always wanted to dominate possession. I know Matt well, and Matt's a possession-based coach, and it's worked to an extent over the last couple of years. But you got to be able to mix and match your football. You have to, whether you play home, whether you play away, you come up against different teams, and low block, high block, depending on what they do. You got to be able to mix up your games and how you play, because then it just becomes predictable. And at the moment, it is predictable, because, as I said, they're dominating possession, but they're not creating anything. So to answer your question on USL League One, I don't think there's a one way of success. I think you can do it multiple ways, but I do think you got to be able to mix your game up. I do think if you're just a predictable possession-based team, it's easy to play against. It really is. You got to be able to mix and match, and that's something that at the moment maybe Madison aren't doing well enough, because they're not creating many chances, or as many chances as they should be doing, and then they're definitely not putting them away.
Yeah, and if you think about Madison and the way they dominate the ball, there are just these moments where they get into the attacking zone and things feel like they're stalling out. I think the number that's been interesting to me, they're dead last in successful dribbles this season in League One. They were 6th last year. So that's something, when you think about dribbling, that's a factor where you beat a player, you're forcing the rotations, you're buying yourself some more space. For whatever reason, personnel, bad luck, whatever it is, Madison doesn't have that edge that they had in seasons past when they were a bit more effective. I look at this game in particular, where the front line is Garcia and Dorado and Derek Gebhard. I know we like what we've seen from Dorado with the cameos with the Legion and what he did in college. Garcia at one time had some moments with El Paso, but these aren't players that we know can do the job in League One. On the slide, they've tried to integrate quite a number of new players in the attacking line at the wingback spots. So some of it is chemistry. I just think it's a whole mix of things that are making this team underperform when they get to that area of the pitch.
The amount of El Paso connection in this match in particular really was like off the charts in terms of Gebhard, Garcia, Brent Coleman on the bench for Omaha, Josue Aron Gomez, and Dom Casciato. That's like an insane amount of El Paso like influence on this match. I think your point, John, with the fluency with Madison, bringing in Villader, it's a classic case of like names on the sheet good. It doesn't look great in practice. Like we've seen it with a number of teams over the last couple of seasons across League One and the Championship, where it looks like a really strong roster. It looks like, hey, everything should be clicking, and it just doesn't for whatever reason. I think the one question that just remains, and this is not a new question, but like Garrett McLaughlin, like just what caused the drop off? Like since he got to Madison, he just hasn't been the same player that he was in North Carolina. He produced like crazy, and they just haven't found the spot for him. He hasn't consistently even been in the team, and I think that's like unfortunately some of the story is they in integrating a lot of these new folks over the last couple of years, they just really haven't found like the right formula, and it's clearly again not added up to goals, which is what you would have expected with some of the pieces that they've got in this team.
Yeah, I will say, like Garrett McLaughlin, I've always been a fan of him. But when you watch North Carolina play, they were different. Like they had absolutely no problem going long over the top, and he had this partnership with Alex Anderson. I always thought McLaughlin was really good, coming showing defeat, but he loved spinning in behind as well. I thought that was one of his big strengths. And I don't think Madison just don't play. Again, they like to play through the thirds, possession-based football. They don't really play those balls. So maybe, you haven't seen the best of McLaughlin, but it's just mad. You look at the team. I mean, Villader, Sosa on the other side, same back three, same goalkeeper if they want. I think the midfield's gotten stronger. Carrera Garcia, Jackson Dietrich, John Murphy. They're stacked. And for me, it's funny, like, because you look at, I think prior to the game against Omaha, they'd drawn like ridiculously, I think it was like 6 games out of 6 or something. They had drawn all those games. So again, it can go either way, and obviously against Omaha went the other way. So I still feel like that it will click. These players, Villader will get his game time. He didn't get any game time at Sacramento, or too much game time, or maybe as much as he would have liked recently. So maybe it's just match fitness, and McLaughlin's coming back from injury, and Galindrez and Boyce haven't, they're not really chipping in with goals. But once that starts to happen, I like to think that they'll, absolutely climb up the table. I just don't know if it's a bit too late to really kind of get up to the top 3, which you would have probably expected Madison to be,
Well,
and to be fair, just right before we move on, to be fair, I think the same questions remain for Omaha probably on the other side in terms of like they haven't really found their goal scoring like feat in terms of this new front line. And I think there's a lot more to be expected from the likes of Gomez and company up top for Omaha. And they get, obviously a banger in this one to win it. But I think still want to see like the best out of this attacking unit for Omaha as well.